Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the VIP content here at the World Fitness and Wellness Online Summit. Next up, a fantastic interview with Jonathan DePotter, founder and CEO of Behold Retreats, as we discuss the future of plant medicine therapy. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining me here today. How are things in sunny Thailand?
Very well, thank you, Ross. Very well here in Koh Phangan.
Now, perhaps for those that don't know about Behold Retreats, could you give us a quick rundown on your company and what exactly it does?
So we provide holistic wellness programs that incorporate plant medicine retreats. The plant medicines that we work with are ayahuasca, psilocybin mushrooms, and the San Pedro cactus, which are three of the more commonly known plant medicines. We facilitate retreats in idyllic locations in Europe and in Central and South America, where these plant medicines are legal. Our motivation at Behold Retreats is really to elevate our clients to peak performance and well-being, and to do so by leveraging the scientifically proven benefits of plant medicine. Our programs draw upon the science that has come out of a number of leading universities and the research that they've done over the past decades from institutions like Harvard, like Johns Hopkins University, NYU Imperial College in London, amongst others, and which has really been proving out that the plant medicine, or psychedelics as they're sometimes commonly referred to, are both safe and transformative in their effects. The results that have come from this research are really quite compelling. You may have heard this stat before that, up to 50% and sometimes even more than 50% of the participants in these clinical trials report that the experience is the most significant experience of their lives. 80% of the participants rate that as the experience as one of the top 5 most meaningful experiences of their lives. So the benefits are really quite staggering. We see measured increases in or measured improvements in mood, in positive behavior, in cognitive brain function, as well as feelings of social connectedness. And these improvements are not only reported by the individual, but they're also seen by family and friends. So they're actually observed by people within the broader social group. So at Behold Retreats, really our focus is to make these benefits available to our clients. We curate these programs very much based upon our clients' needs, their dreams, their goals, and we help them be matched with the right coach or the right therapist, depending upon their needs, the right plant medicine, and also we curate the right plant medicine retreat experience to facilitate a really introspective kind of personal transformation journey.
Let's talk a bit more about trying to give our audience a more visual representation of each retreat. Are you basing each retreat on a one-off experience, or a kind of niche experience around plant medicine, or is it more of a holistic experience?
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Ross. So typically our programs span 1 year. The more intensive component was within the kind of first 8 to 12 weeks. And then we have subsequent follow-ups with our clients to ensure that they're really holding themselves accountable to the big positive life changes that hopefully they would have set themselves through the course of that more intensive periods. Typically, what we see with our clients is that, with the first program, they will often come back with the second, and that reflects, my own experience, that reflects experience of close friends who have gone through their own plant medicine experiences. And typically clients come to us for kind of three different reasons. One is healing work. So perhaps they have experienced some childhood trauma or some trauma in their life. Perhaps they're suffering from mental health disorders. That could be anxiety, depression, addictive disorders that have become so common and pervasive in our culture today. So, for example, alcohol and pornography are two. Often people come to us because of their interest in self-discovery and growth. They really want to feel calmer, more patient, more empathetic, more connected with themselves or their broader social circles. And then the third reason that people come to us is also around spiritual growth. And, speaking from personal experience, my meditation practice has certainly been enhanced. So through plant medicine. So those are kind of the three reasons that typically people come to us. Within our programs, we have 4 broad phases. So the first is around education, making sure that our clients are really they really understand what they're signing up for ahead of actually participating in a program with us, because this is not easy work. It's challenging work, but it's really beneficial for those who participate. The second phase is preparation, so making sure that they have all of the necessary tools in preparation for their retreat, and they'll work with a coach and a therapist for that. Finally, we send them on the retreat in a legal location. Like I said, we've got locations scattered about the globe in legal locations. And then finally, and most importantly, it's the post-retreat integration work, which is really about helping them maximize the benefits into their daily lives. I think the retreat experiences themselves are really phenomenal, but that's not their daily life. And so what's important to us is that when we bring them home, that they're actually able to make these, sustained improvements to daily life as they return to their work and their family and their friends and all of the things that trigger them, because that's really where the benefits come in. And also by taking up more sustainable sorts of practices like yoga and meditation and healthy eating and all of those sorts of good things.
Now, plant medicine has been around for centuries. But of course, to many, it's a new phenomenon. It's something that they're only just kind of realizing that there are commercial activities and retreats based around this. What are the people's normal reactions when, of course, you start talking about plant medicine? And I suppose you had your own initial reactions to plant medicine. What are your thoughts? Is it skepticism is one of them? Is it a curiosity? I'd love to get your opinion and your own thoughts from personal experience.
Yeah, sure. And I think on the whole, people have been far more curious and open-minded than I would have expected when I embarked upon this. I've been living in Asia myself for the past 8 years, where this topic, the topics of mental health as well as the topic of plant medicine are not often spoken about. But if you go to a place like Silicon Valley in the US, where a number of my friends live, this is a commonplace topic. It's happening at the restaurants where groups of friends are getting together every night. And I don't think that's necessarily a coincidence. We have luminaries like Steve Jobs who credit a great deal of their success to this sort of these sorts of experiences. And again, I don't think that comes as a coincidence. Today we have 1 in 6 people pre-coronavirus that were suffering from mental health disorders. So I think that's sufficient in terms of evidence to suggest that the current modalities that we have today are just insufficient. And any mental health practitioner, or the majority of, will tell you that the therapeutic and the pharmacological tools that we've been using are not necessarily turning around the worrying trends that we see. So I think the science is definitely there. We've got the decades of science, and I think people are really increasingly receptive to this promising subject. In terms of my own personal journey, it's been a pretty humbling experience, to be honest. Growing up in Hawaii, I saw a lot of, the cool kids around me who were drinking and smoking and partying and also participating in plant medicine. They didn't give me a sense that there was good experiences to be had, that there was growth experiences to be had from this sort of thing. So I avoided it myself. I also come from really quite hippie parents myself that led me to wholly reject things like meditation, things like yoga, early in my life, and so it's been interesting because that kind of led me to the path of corporate strategy consulting in Hong Kong, and then subsequently with plant medicine, kind of coming back cap in hand to my parents and saying, you know what, you were right about a lot of these things, and I was wrong. So that's been an interesting experience for me, and so. For me, when friends first started telling me about plant medicine and that I might consider it, I was initially pretty skeptical and pretty hesitant, even perhaps dismissive. But with some encouragement, I was able to overcome my trepidation, and I went into my first ayahuasca retreat a bit of an angry atheist, and I came out something that was a little bit different, if I may say. And I was shown during my retreat very specifically and very directly how my mindsets and my behavior were holding me back in life. So it was like I said, it was a very humbling experience. I've grown and benefited immensely as a result. But after the retreat itself, I was a bit lost for words and not exactly quite sure what to do with the experience. And so, that really speaks to why I've been so strongly motivated to establish Behold Retreats, because with such a rapid change in thinking in such a short period of time, I think it's very important that people are well guided and well supported through such an experience. I personally probably did not realize a number of the benefits that were actually available to me as a result of the retreat experience, because I didn't have that therapist and I didn't have that coach after the experience. And so it was just very difficult for me to integrate a number of those lessons that I could have benefited from during my first retreat experience. So yeah, I think, again, like I said before, the retreat themselves are great, but really the benefit is upon returning to daily life and to maximize and making sitting in traffic an enjoyable experience. That's the target, not when you're off retreat escaping from your daily life.
You touched on benefits earlier, Jonathan, whether it's mood, behavior, self-awareness, mindfulness. How do these benefits vary person to person? Is it an age difference? Is it a religious difference? Is it a skepticism difference? How do you see these benefits playing out across your customers?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Ross. And I think it's worth setting the context of, everyone obviously has had their own experience up until, their first plant medicine experience, their own family history, perhaps some of their own trauma, some of their own mindsets, some of their more hardwired behaviors. And so, yes, the benefits very much differ person by person. It's also worth noting that, with the broad variety of different plant medicines and different contexts under which they can be used in a therapeutic setting, that can also influence the sorts of experiences and so benefits that people might experience. I think, there's some broad patterns that emerge time and time again around reconnection and a real sense of kind of positivity and renewal. And I think in particular, the theme around reconnection is interesting, because people often report kind of a sense of reconnection between mind, body, and soul, a reconnection with their family and with their friends at a deeper level, and also a deeper connection with the world and the universe at large, and kind of really feeling in a deeper way that you're actually part of that. And so those are really the themes that kind of that reemerge. I think there's some underlying neurological changes that do take place, which I think are which do promote these benefits. And one of those in particular is called neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is kind of the creation of new neurons that happens during your plant medicine experience, as well as the formation of new connections between the existing neurons, and that these two things in combination actually facilitate the exchange of information and communication between parts of the brain that may have somehow become disconnected over time, or parts of the brain that do not normally exchange information. And this can lead to some big realizations, because I sometimes give the example, if you're someone who's cheating on their wife and also says that you love your wife, then those two thoughts are actually incongruent. And so what tends to happen is that there's a coherence that emerges within the brain that actually leads the person to think, actually, I should stop doing that. I need to tell my wife what's going on, and I need to try to make good in my life. And that's just one sort of example of the sort of experience that someone can have. But what's really interesting here, and the science here is not proven, but what's believed by a number of the leading researchers, is that these neurological effects, this neurogenesis effect, is actually what's responsible for healing at the level of the brain on a physical level, and that explains why, relative to, say, some of the therapeutic or pharmacological solutions, that actually plant medicine can actually treat the problem at its root cause, which explains the sustained benefits, because your brain is literally and physically growing and becoming more coherent as an organ across the brain, if you will. One of our advisors, who is a gentleman by the name of Will Siu, who's a Harvard and Oxford trained psychiatrist, he has a quote which I absolutely love. He says that plant medicine is a non-specific amplifier of the subconscious. And I think that's so true. You know, these experiences really allow you unparalleled access to navigate and explore your own mind, and to be able to identify those things and deal with those things that are really holding you back from your potential. So for me personally, you know, I think I could speak for hours about the benefits, but, you know, I think better relationships, calmer, more empathetic, etc. But, you know, I'm also conscious that I'm here on behalf of plant medicine and on behalf of Behold Retreats. So what I would really encourage any listener to do is to go do your own research and see the stories that are out there, because the benefits and the stories are really just incredible. The benefits are wide-ranging and surprising, to be honest. So would encourage absolutely everyone to do their own research on the subject.
The benefits are there, the stories are there. What's perhaps some of the sticking points to getting people to actually move forward and take up the experience? I know they've probably got maybe a few myths out there that we should debunk. I suppose with any new concept in the marketplace, there's concerns maybe or question marks around safety, around value for money, around credibility. Let's debunk some of those. What are your thoughts on some of these myths that are perhaps floating out there when it comes to plant medicine?
I think it's the right question to ask. You know, I think at the level of the individual, this is a bit of unknown territory, but we do have now decades of research that we can leverage to give ourselves a good degree of confidence. The other thing that I think does play in is that we see an unprecedented number of psychiatrists and therapists that are taking up training in relation to plant medicine. And so, you know, to some extent, I think that can speak for itself. In terms of the safety and the doubts, I'm always very quick to recognize. I myself am not a scientist in this regard, but you know, there's great resources out there from the likes of Johns Hopkins University, from the likes of Harvard, and you know, I would encourage everyone to refer to that body of evidence. I think the other thing to recognize is that, you know, there are risks, and you know, everyone knows someone who's had a bad experience if they don't know that person directly. But if you look at the stories that sit behind the more challenging cases, the overwhelming majority come from three different places. The first is that there's multiple substance abuse. You know, people commonly taking plant medicine alongside alcohol, and that's very much not recommended. The second is that the context for the use of plant medicine isn't the right one. So instead of a therapeutic setting, someone has taken some plant medicine and gone to a party, or they've gone to a concert, and that's a pretty overwhelming context to be in without plant medicine. And I personally have never experienced anything along those lines at that sort of a context, and I could never imagine experiencing it in that sort of a context, because it's just simply not the right one. The third is that there's lack of or poor medical screening. And so, you know, I think this is important work. It does have contraindications with certain other medications, and so it's very important that, you know, someone is healthy and that they are well screened ahead of participating in a plant medicine retreat or experience. And so, what I would say is that, you know, for anyone who's exploring or considering plant medicine, be sure that you choose who you work with incredibly carefully. And again, that speaks to our motivation to establish, you know, Behold Retreats, is that we want to provide safe, guided, immersive, and transformative journeys, and to make sure that all of the infrastructure that's required around the experience, to make sure that people are kept safe, both physically as well as psychologically, throughout their experience. You know, I think in terms of the other barriers, you know, it's unfortunate in that in many countries, these experiences are not legal. So what that means is that there's international travel that's required, and a certain amount of investment that actually prohibits a large portion of the population for actually benefiting from this. So my hope is that over time that changes, but that is unfortunately the reality today.
I know the industry, of course, on a commercial basis is quite young, even though it is a millennia old. How have you seen the industry itself change in these past couple of years, Jonathan, in terms of geographically, scientifically, even commercially? And what are your thoughts in terms of what's next for the industry over the next couple of years?
So I think there's, you know, in terms of legalization, there's a lot happening in North America and Europe. In Central and South America, as well as parts of Africa, there's always been a plant medicine tradition that spans back hundreds, if not thousands of years. But North America and Europe had, in large part, as well as Asia, has in large part fallen victim to the 1960s war on drugs that was spearheaded by the U.S. And so there's a great deal of irony that actually the U.S. is actually becoming first in terms of the legalization of all of the policies that they push the rest of the world to adopt. But it looks like now MDMA, which is a psychoactive that has been used in the U.S. and is now in phase 3 of clinical trials. It looks like by 2022, if not 2023, nationwide MDMA-assisted therapy will be legalized in the U.S. And alongside that, they're planning for about 350 clinics to be opened up nationwide. So that's super exciting. And you know, the Food and Drug Administration in the U.S., which is known to be pretty conservative, has recently described this as breakthrough therapy. So they're seeing this as a real hope for improvement in mental health. And I think, you know, with coronavirus, as well as a number of the other challenges that we see emerging in the U.S., that Trump, for all of his faults and all of his everything, he's really shining a light on some of the deep rooted issues that are in America. So I think, you know, we see a number of legalization initiatives. So now in Oakland, California, psilocybin is decriminalized. In Santa Cruz, California, in Denver, Colorado, there's a statewide ballot that's up for Oregon that looks very promising, as well as a number of either statewide or nationwide initiatives specific to plant medicines that are gaining some pretty solid traction. Canada has already legalized a few specific things, and there's a lot happening in terms of the investment in Canada in developing new plant-based medicine products as well. And in Europe, there's also a number of legalization initiatives, and plant medicine has been broadly decriminalized in Netherlands, Portugal, and Spain, which is another set of locations where we facilitate our retreats. In terms of the science, that also is growing exponentially. I mentioned a number of the leading universities earlier, but that's really expanding out. There's now within Asia Pacific, there's Australia and New Zealand are pretty progressed in terms of their own research, which is a real precedent to legalization. Here in Asia, we still do have a bit of a gap, and that's in establishing Behold Retreats. A large part of my motivation has been to try to actually find the right channels to begin to have this conversation in a constructive way. These are sensitive subjects in the region, but the science here is just so compelling. And here in Asia, we have a medicine tradition which is rooted in plants, and these are simply just plants that have been used for hundreds and thousands of years in a medical and a therapeutic context. So. Very excited to see how we can explore the right ways to introduce this important work here in the region. In terms of investment, there's a ton of money going into the plant medicine industry. Estimates show that by 2027, this will be a $7 billion industry globally, which is huge, and the industry is growing at about 17% per annum between now and then. So. Huge growth, and a lot of real heavyweights backing this space. So many people will be familiar with the likes of Peter Thiel, with Tim Ferriss, many other of the forward-thinking investors that people look to in terms of their thinking are very pro plant medicine, if you will.
Well, with a growing market and easing of restrictions across the world, where do you see Behold Retreats evolving to in the next couple of years? What's your vision for the future for your own company, Jonathan?
Yeah, so at the moment, our real focus is on providing world-class transformative experiences for our clients. That is really our guiding light. We really want to be a force for good in this industry. It's the industry itself, as I mentioned before, is emerging and evolving very rapidly. And to be a force for good, we think that that focus on a really exceptional customer experience that maintains the highest standards of quality and focuses at the level of the individual and their transformation and their journeys will yield all of the necessary benefits for us downstream. I think we definitely see a lot of opportunities for future growth and expansion and into new areas. But at the moment, we're really focused on establishing a client set that's got these transformative stories, and that the testimonials will speak for themselves over time. We are looking for a small number of collaborative partners who believe in the sorts of work that we're doing. I think for the partnerships that we're looking for those that it's 1 + 1 = 3, where there's real opportunities for us to benefit one another. It's been really rewarding to work with one of our partners who's remaining silent for the time being, but we've been working with their leadership team to really help them push their thinking on where they could be in 2, 3, 5 years' time, and using plant medicine as actually a part of that to heal themselves individually, and then to come together collectively to really push the envelope in terms of where they want to be as an organization and how they want to work together. And that for me has been super rewarding and super motivating.
Well, I think, Jonathan, as you're seeing this wellness ecosystem grow exponentially, I think there's no denying the value and the benefit that plant medicine can bring to this community. Jonathan, we wish you and the team every success in continuing to build awareness and your own company. It's an incredibly exciting commercial frontier, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want more information, please do reach out to Jonathan, both about plant medicine and, of course, about the opportunity to take part in one of his retreats. Jonathan DePorter, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Ross. Just in closing, there's a few things I wanted to say. I wanted to again encourage anyone who's interested to do their own research. This is a super personal subject. And everyone I think should be encouraged to decide whether it's right for them. It's a question that's worth asking yourself. And the second thing, Ross, is I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to have a conversation. I'm really excited about participating in your upcoming event. I think the work that you guys are doing with Fit Summit is super exciting, and it's important work. And I'm excited to be a part of your platform and look forward to connecting with the network more broadly.
Thanks, Jonathan. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll see at the bottom of the screen now a quick URL. Please do look Jonathan up, and we'll see you later on. Thanks very much.